is Blank, and I've been in Vietnam how many years?
My name is Blank, and I've been in Vietnam how many years?
My name is Jason.
My name is Mark.
My name is Kate.
My name is Katina Fox.
My name is Brian.
My name is Natalie.
My name is Katja.
My name is Megan.
My name is Ray.
My name is Bilal.
My name is Dave Fox.
And I've lived in Vietnam for 5 years.
For 5 years.
For 2 years.
For 3 years.
3 years.
For 3 years.
5 years.
For 3 years. For almost 5 years.
For 3 years.
I traveled to Ninh Binh a year or two ago. That's where King Kong was filmed. So that, I think, in and of itself is like a kind of a unique experience. But we went to this really local guest house, and that's where we stayed for a week. And the owners and the family of the owners, they kept bringing us all of this homemade wine, and it was like wine from different resources. So like wine from the snakes, wine from the grass, wine from the trees, wine from the huts. Like it was all this like different homemade wine that I think is a uniquely Vietnamese experience.
The first year we were here, we wanted to go down to the Mekong Delta, and it was so far, but on the map it looked so close. We're like, oh, it's only 150 kilometers. We'll be there by nighttime. And we got on the motorbike, and we realized very quickly what all the hammocks and coconuts were for, because driving on the roads was so exhausting. We arrived to the Mekong, to our homestay, and they're like, where did you come from? We said, oh, we came from Ho Chi Minh City. And they said, you're the first ones to have ever motorbiked all the way from Ho Chi Minh City. And then we looked, we turned around and we said, but that's Ho Chi Minh City. And they're like, yeah, but it's still far, even though you can see it.
I think when my sister came to visit my first Christmas here and my cousin, and we did like a bike trip from Hoi An down to Nha Trang, and our guide Tao took us as our guide, took us on this trip, and he said he had never taken a bunch of girls on a trip. It was either like a female with like her male partner or just males, and so guiding a trip with like just females was really new for him and like super exciting and surprising. And when we said, well, how's it going so far? And he said, it's the weirdest but most fun experience that I've ever had guiding. And then he introduced us to his family for a meal, and just like the whole trip was just really awesome.
I was lucky enough to be invited to spend Tet holiday with a family in Hanoi. I can't even put it into words.
Quintessentially Vietnamese experience was staying in a very open bamboo hut in Ninh Binh. And it was beautiful, and yet it's sort of infuriating because the wind was howling all night and we were harassed by mosquitoes. But it was such an amazing place and such a beautiful countryside that it was absolutely a Vietnam-only experience.
Baby-sized chairs.
Riding a motorbike with like 6 boxes on it. Like you're holding a box, there's something between your legs, you're riding with one hand, and then like somebody else is holding some other junk, and then something strapped to the motorbike. Only in Vietnam.
The difficulty of a custom-ordered pizza or custom-ordered anything that might not appear on the menu, but with the ingredients. The ingredients are somewhere on the menu, just not in the particular combination for the particular pizza that you would like to order, and the difficulty by which one needs to go through to achieve that pizza.
May I add to it? It's also like the most horrific karaoke I've ever heard in my life.
So I was calling a grab bike, trying to get home, and he was lost and he couldn't find me, and it was really bad, and I was confused. And this one younger man on a motorbike was watching me, and I assumed he was a Seong driver, the people who did this before grab bike. And so finally he said, are you waiting for Uber? And I said, well, Grab, he can't find me. And he said, where do you want to go? And he wound up taking me home, and at the end I went to pull out my wallet, and he said, no, and he pulled out his phone and typed into Google Translate, and he held it up, and it just said, I help you. And he drove away, and it was the sweetest thing.
I was living for a while in a very Vietnamese neighborhood without a lot of Westerners there, and I was sitting in a coffee shop one day, and there was this guy, and I was at a table right by the street. It was an open coffee shop, and there was this guy, and he was kind of hanging out, and he was looking at me, and I had my iPhone out, and iPhones are in certain parts of Ho Chi Minh City, they are a favorite thing for pickpockets to snatch because they're worth a lot of money. This seemed like a really unlikely place where this guy would do this, but I saw him there and I put my phone away. I was doing some work and I started just writing stuff out by hand rather than working on my phone and my computer. The next thing I knew, he came behind. I didn't see him coming up behind me. He came up behind me. He reached around with his phone to take a selfie of me and him together. And just on reflex, I blocked the selfie and I said no to him. And he very sheepishly apologized and went running off. What I realized afterwards was that I was in an area where there were some people, there are a lot of people who have moved to Saigon from poorer parts of the country, from out in the countryside where they haven't had a lot of exposure to Westerners yet. And he was just fascinated with seeing a Westerner. He wanted to maybe show his friends back in his home village, hey, look at this guy who I took a selfie with. And he meant no harm by what he was doing. I was so taken aback that my reflex was to say, get out of my face. And I actually felt quite bad about that afterwards, once it really clicked in my mind what was going on and what his motives were.
Well, we had our baby in Vietnam and had to navigate the bureaucracy of getting a birth certificate.
Yeah, I think that the red tape is probably the most unique experience that we've had here as we've been living abroad. Just sort of the stamping and the paperwork and the photocopying and the offices and the more photocopying and stamping and the paperwork.
And then had to come back the next day to literally take paper from one office to the next office. And there were doors connecting the offices, so things like that.
I think just being so welcomed by the people is an experience in itself. I've been to a lot of other countries and a lot of cities, and a lot of people are more closed off, whereas I felt Vietnamese people are very welcoming. And that's an experience I've really only experienced here, just being so welcomed wholeheartedly.
I think for me, every time that I have to travel a long distance in Vietnam is a challenge, because I moved here from New York, and in New York, the public transportation system is pretty efficient, and though there can be delays and there can be people who jump onto the tracks, for the most part, it's functioning and it gets you where you need to go in a timely manner. But in Vietnam, the motorbike situation and having to participate and engage and be completely invested in the travel experience is very different for me.
I'd say crossing the streets, but that's cliche and I've been here once before, so that was not the worst. Probably the fact that you had to do a lot more things with a language barrier than anywhere else I've ever been.
I just think like moving to a country where not everybody speaks English was initially, I think, the hardest thing, and then going to different, there's not just like one store where you can get everything, and so you have to go to 5 different stores just to like cook one meal, and in those stores none of the items are in English and nobody speaks English. And for me, like getting used to like a cash-based society again, or at all for the first time, was I think initially like the biggest shock and like the hardest thing to sort of get used to, and like was the mentally the most draining.
For me it was smells. Now I like them, but like the smell of taxis with the pandan leaves inside smelled like bad socks to me at first, and it was a lot of them going around. Now I love this smell and I'm used to it. Culturally I'm adjusted, but at the beginning I was just like thinking something is dying in a taxi behind me.
I mean, the language is obviously challenging. Being able to ask for what you want, and when you say what you think you want, and you did not say it right, or using Google Translate, and Google Translate does not have it, that's a pretty big challenge.
Your answers are much better than mine so far.
Interviewing me about
Experience in Vermont, that's my home state. Vietnam.
It's kind of like Vietnam.
They start with a V. They have mountains. It's all good. Colder in the north. Let's see. Really